Real stories, real people, real phenomenon. Welcome to the Sasquatch experience. Tonight we have the story of a mother who had a close encounter, far too close for comfort. Enjoy. Mrs. Brenda was casually washing the dishes after dinner while looking out into her backyard when off in the distance, past her horse corral, she could see her pony suddenly become agitated. That agitation became a full-on panic as she noticed an indistinct figure pass through the trees behind the corral. Not thinking much of it, she called to her oldest son, "Nick, there's some kids out there trying to tease the horse." She abandoned the dishes and stepped out of the back door. She'd seen her horse unruly before, but something was off. This was different. She hadn't assumed the worst, but she took a BB gun for good measure. Nick raced past her and his little brother John, who was playing in the yard. He sprinted down the overgrown meadow and along the stand of trees when he came face to face with a Sasquatch standing on the indistinct footpath. He came to a screeching halt, so much so that his feet slid from under him on the moist vegetation and he crashed to a seat on the ground. In disbelief, he looked back to his mom, but without seeing the creature ensure her son could handle some kids, she returned to the house. When he looked back at the Sasquatch, he was already making long strides across the thick bush and wildflower-covered meadow, effortlessly, lifting his feet far higher than any person could. As Nick scrambled to get up, a branch snapped beneath him, and abruptly the Sasquatch stopped, turned, and locked eyes with him. Nick ran back to the house to tell his mother about the creature, tearing the screen door off the hinges in the process. He changed out of his slippery shoes into some boots and charged back outside, taking with him a large army bayonet he kept above the fireplace. John cluelessly continued to play, but Mrs. Brenda was close behind Nick. She called out to their dogs, but they had already hidden under the house and refused to budge. When Nick ran back down through the meadow, the Sasquatch was still walking about. But once it realized it was being followed, it retreated downhill across a small creek and stopped on the far bank under a fir tree to face his pursuers. Now, with nothing to block the view, and with Nick and Brenda about 30 feet away, the creature was visible from head to toe. Everyone stood there silent, frozen for what seemed like 20 minutes with adrenaline pumping, but it was probably closer to 5 minutes. More than enough time for them to get a detailed description of the creature. Using the branches in the area to measure, they say it was about 6 foot 6 inches and almost completely covered in blackish gray hair, with golden brown patches on the chest and shoulders. The hair was about 4 to 5 inches long and dirty, with burrs in it. The hair was notable for its pronounced brow ridge and its deep-set eyes that were less open than a human's eyes, but dark and deep. It had a wide and stumpy nose, and the hair under it was so thick it entirely hid its jawline. It had impressively wide shoulders. As Nick described it, they were as wide as his wingspan. The arms looked strong and heavy, with wide hands, thick fingers, and dark brown, rough palms. The nails had deep yellow, nicotine-stained look to them, and although no genitals were visible through the hair, no breasts were either, it seemed distinctly male. Mrs. Brenda stood stoic until her nerves got the best of her, and she yelled to Nick, "Break it off," announcing it's time to go. Just then, the Sasquatch unleashed a blood-curdling scream and takes a huge step across the creek toward them, with his arms extended to the side. Without hesitation, they retreated back to the house. Halfway there, Nick turned around to see if they were being followed, and sure enough they were. The creature was still behind them. He's now the one in pursuit. They continued to the house, and Brenda scooped up John from the lawn as he yelled, "Mommy, there's a big monkey in our yard." Knowing the door was already off the hinges, they climbed on the low garage roof and scurried up as fast as they could. After what they'd seen from this creature, Brenda knows it's only a matter of time before he either snatches her from them or rips one of her sons from her arms. She desperately shoves them higher on the roof with one hand as she frantically claws up the shingles with the other. Terrified, she turns around, only to find the Sasquatch simply walking away. It was an eye-opening experience. They'd never been strangers to the outdoors, but clearly, the woods still had its secrets. Investigators were called, and surprisingly, 2 sets of footprints were found. 12 inches and 6 inches respectively. A week passed with no incidents to everyone's delight. Well, all except John's. Noticeably sad, Brenda asked him what was wrong, and he sighed and said, "The little monkey isn't coming to play anymore." If you enjoyed the story, remember to like and subscribe. And if you've actually had a Sasquatch experience, email me at the_Sasquatchexperience@gmail.com. See you soon.